Hello YouTube. All right, we're back on the Firebird and we're going to continue the saga of the cooling system. So yesterday I went to a huge car show and it was some serious stop and go traffic. Got stuck for about 35, maybe 40 minutes and really bad stop and go. And the temperature was starting to climb up. It stayed steady for a long time at like 185. Then all of a sudden it started to get a little hotter and a little hotter, a little hotter. And it got all the way up to about 210 by the time I finally found a parking spot. And I'm walking around the car show, looking at other people's cars and actually talking to other people about cooling temperatures and so on. And I just up and decided, you know what? I'm not convinced that this clutch is any good. So I got home and I ordered myself a new clutch, and it actually came in today already. It's 2747 Hayden, pretty popular, heavy duty. It's not the severe duty, it's a heavy duty. I'm gonna make a little modification on it that the internet guys say makes it reduce the temperature, lower temperature that it'll engage at than if you just leave it alone. But I also discovered some stuff too in the process. I'm gonna turn the camera around and show you what's going on here. So when I pulled the fan out, I noticed the clutch is wet, and when I touch it on my finger, it's oily. It's coming from the middle outward. So apparently this clutch has a leak. So this clutch, it's gotta get replaced. So that's step number one. But then I also, when I was taking it apart, I noticed something. And I turned on my water pump, taking the pulley off. Now mind you, the car was still warm, and I could turn the water pump really slowly. It had a lot of resistance. Now today with it cold, this thing is seized. It is absolutely locked up. That's pretty crazy. And I noticed when I was at the cruise in this stop and go that a couple times I put it in neutral and I revved it up, get the coolant flowing, maybe get the fan to spin a little bit faster for a little bit. And I noticed a little bit of a howling noise. I thought, that's kind of weird. Is that the fan clutching and engaging, or is that something else? And it turns out it must have been the bearings on the water pump, because this water pump is seized. So I ordered a FlowKooler from Summit. It should be here tomorrow, maybe the next day. But now I'm starting to like backtrack and think maybe, at first I thought, oh my God, this car ran fine. Putting the clutch fan on ruined the water pump. It must have been too much of a drag. Something must have really ruined the water pump. But now I'm kind of looking at it from the other direction. The car used to be really good with the electric fan, and it took a lot to get it to overheat with the electric fan. So now I'm starting to think it wasn't the clutch fan. Maybe my water pump was going bad, and the fact that it was getting hotter than it used to, it wasn't the electric fan getting old and going bad. Maybe it was the water pump going bad. So kind of a set of circumstances that came together for probably the best possible outcome. The car show was only about 3 miles away. That I decided I'm just gonna pull the trigger and buy a new clutch. That I pulled that out and I see that this clutch is leaking, and that I discovered that this water pump is seized. That could have very easily been a catastrophic failure, tow ride home, cause some damage, serious overheating. Seems like everything's really kind of worked out for the best here. I'm gonna turn the camera around and show you what I'm gonna do on the new clutch as well. Here's the new clutch sitting on top of the old clutch. They appear to be the same diameter. It's got a lot more fins on it, a lot more surface area, and I'm not sure how that compares. Depth-wise, they appear to be identical, so that's cool. But reading on the internet, zoom in real close here. So the guys on the internet say that if you move this little spring tang either to the outside, it'll engage at a lower temperature, or if you don't want it just out here dangling and loose, to use a Dremel and cut a groove right here as close to this outside edge as you can while still maintaining an edge. And that little bit of difference, you're only talking about 1/8 of an inch or so, will still make it engage at a lower temperature. Plus, then it's adjustable. You can either put it there or put it back if you don't like the results. So I'm gonna get out my Dremel And I'm gonna be real careful and cut an additional groove here and then move this tang over. So when I bolt this up, hopefully it engages at a lower temperature. So here we go. You know what, I think while this fan's out, maybe I'll hit it with a coat of spray paint, make it look a little nicer too. All right, so I used the Dremel tool, got this handheld attachment, got a real tiny cutoff wheel, and I successfully, try to show you that, put a second groove in it, moved the spring over, ended up nicking the spring a little bit, but not the end of the world. Anyway, I moved the spring over a little bit, probably almost close to 1/4 of an inch, I'll bet. And that's supposed to make it engage a lot sooner. And if it doesn't work, I can always just move it back to the original spot. So we'll see how this experiment plays out. All right, here's a handy tip. When you need to drain your cooling system, rather than open that petcock, make a big old mess, I got this 12-volt pump, and I got a long hose, shove the hose down in the radiator, put the other end of the hose into an empty jug of coolant, and then just touch the 2 contacts of the battery, and it'll suck that radiator down in about, I don't know, 45 seconds. It's pretty darn quick, really clean, really efficient. You can get your cooling system pretty darn low, at least to the bottom of the radiator, without making any kind of mess. One other thing I might as well touch on while I'm at it is there's 2 different water pumps from these old Pontiac engines. I want to see it's 69.5. They changed, there was a 4-inch water pump from the front of the face where the pulley mounts to the back of the pump. They changed to a 4.5-inch. And I've always had the 4-inch on mine. And when I changed my pulley to the smaller AC pulley, that was for the longer shaft water pump. So I've been having to use these little spacers behind it, and it still didn't line up completely correctly, but it was close enough that the belts didn't fall off. So I'm going to show you my old water pump pulley versus the AC one, so you can see the size difference, and then I'll try to show the height difference on them as well. All right, so the left is the old one, the right is the AC one. And then here's what they look like side by side. Probably about 3/8 of an inch or so taller on this one than on that one. And then, like I said, I was using these spacers behind it, and I measured those. That's about 1/4 inch of spacers going behind the pulley to try to make it line up with the rest of the pulleys for the alternator and the crank and the water pump. The power steering pump. So I think I ordered the FlowKooler water pump in the 4.5 shaft, and I think that should eliminate the need for these and hopefully bring it more in line with everything else. Worst case scenario, I got to return the 4.5, get a 4-inch, and go back to using the spacers, which I sure hope I don't have to, because these are a pain to try to line up behind the pulley with a bolt, with the fan clutch and the fan, and it's a big old hassle. Well, that's something. There's nothing wrong with this water pump. Check that out. Look at the fresh wear marks on the divider plate. Now, this has been installed for years, and it worked just fine. We're looking at about a week since I put the clutch fan on, and all of a sudden it wore in like that. You can see the wear marks on the fins. The clutch fan did that. I don't know if it's a little out of balance. What's going on? Look, it spins free. It spins totally free now. It was seized up against the plate. That's nuts. That is absolutely crazy. There's nothing wrong with this water pump at all. It's a good old cast iron, impeller water pump. That's nuts. Since it's all apart, we're talking cooling system. I'm gonna show you, I got these 2 little holes in the top of the plate. I read this tip a long time ago. Somebody called them steam holes or vent holes. I have no idea if they do anything or not, but I tried it. Doesn't seem to hurt anything. So I just drilled 2 real tiny holes in the very top, and I think it helps to let air out or let steam or fluid flow a little bit through there. Maybe work out some air bubbles when you're first filling it up. But anyway, I got that. And then another thing I wanted to point out is down here, turn the light on. So you got those little sleeves that slide in and out of the timing chain cover. They got a rubber O-ring on them, and the plate needs to sit on those. I'll bet a lot of rebuilds, those end up getting left out. They're pretty darn important to have. And I'll bet a lot of guys forget about those and don't even think about it. So that's it for today. Gonna wait for the FlowKooler to come in. It's supposed to come in from Summit tomorrow. Possibly not till Wednesday, but got everything cleaned, ready. Bolt that up, fill it up, put on the new clutch with the newly painted fan. See how it goes. All right, we're back. It's the next day. The FlowKooler water pump came in. It's beautiful. I'll turn the camera around and show you. Big bonus going from the 4-inch and having to use spacers behind the pulley to now the 4.5-inch pump, not having to use any spacers. That'll make it way easier to bolt everything up. It's gonna be real nice. And I'll show you too the divider plate with no gasket in place. The plate is pretty much touching the impeller, so that's kind of telling me that I had it awfully close before. With a gasket in place, it's still pretty darn snug. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of massaging to give myself some clearance, especially with everything being aluminum. Could heat up and expand a little bit. I don't want to run into this again where the impeller's rubbing and making a wear fit into the divider plate. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of massaging on this thing. So as you can see, with no gasket in place, the plate is sitting right on the impeller, and even with the gasket, it's awfully tight. So I'm gonna have to massage this a little bit. All right, I adjusted the divider plate a little bit, made sure that I had some clearance, and I left a little bit extra room for the aluminum to expand. So with the gasket in there, it should have adequate clearance. I got it bolted back up already. I'll turn the camera around and show you how that went. Use a torque wrench, got it bolted up to spec. Now, if you read the instructions from FlowKooler, they want you to fill the radiator up, fill your cooling system, and then turn the pump a minimum of 10 times to let the coolant like work its way in and into the seals. And it says leave a slick film so that it doesn't just get shocked as soon as you start the engine and it's winding up at 1500 RPMs or whatever, and you end up burning the seals out. So I guess that's supposed to be an important step, is to fill it up and manually turn the pump at least 10 times. I'm gonna actually do that, and then I'm gonna run up to the hardware store because I need to get some shorter bolts for my the clutch. The old one had studs on it. I'm gonna get some shorter bolts so they're not sticking so far through. So I'm gonna actually let it sit while I go get that so everything can soak a little bit, make sure I don't have any leaks. Then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna bolt it, the clutch fan on, fire this thing up, wait for all the air to come out of the system, see what it does. It's kind of hot out here today, so it might be a good test once I got it running. Okay, there it is, bolted in. Looks real pretty, nice aluminum water pump, nice FlowKooler. Got the 4.5-inch shaft on there, so now the pulleys are gonna line up better than they did before. Won't have to use spacers anymore. Gonna start filling it. Picked up a bottle of this hyper cool stuff. Just like Water Wetter, Royal Purple, any of the other ones out there. Run up to 30 degrees Fahrenheit cooler. Reduces head temp up to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Whatever. The stuff's essentially soap. It's a surfactant, breaks the surface temperature of the water. But for the 11, 12 bucks it costs, it's a little bit of insurance. If it even gets you 1 or 2 degrees colder, it's probably worth 12 bucks. It's supposed to got conditioners and stuff in it too, so it doesn't hurt. Gonna put that in, fill the system up with coolant, and then go to the auto parts store. Hardware store, my bad. Got the system all filled up, rotated the pump a whole bunch of times, even rotated it both directions, but made sure it rotated a whole bunch of times in the proper direction. Went to the hardware store, picked up some new bolts. Getting ready to put the fan and the dampener onto the pump now, along with the pulley. Wanted to point out something super important with these clutches. It's got this little bushing, I think it's made out of brass or bronze, and it fits over the nose of the water pump, and it takes up the space inside the dampener. Without it, you're not gonna have a real nice centered fit. It's gonna help it center it. Don't lose this piece. When you get one of these new clutches, make sure you don't lose this. I'm sure these clutches are good for lots of different water pumps. There's probably bigger ones that don't need this piece, but you don't want to lose this or you're never going to get it centered and the fan's not going to run straight. You're going to destroy your bearings. Kind of like what happened to mine. All right, I'm going to bolt this thing up and start it up. Here we go. All right, got the belts on, got everything bolted up, tightened up. It all looks good. System's filled. Moment of truth, gonna start it up, check for any leaks, see what happens. Wait for the thermostat to open and then pour more coolant in and then we'll go for a test drive. I filled it up, ran it, waited for the thermostat to open and the coolant level to drop in the radiator, top that back off, put the cap on. It's been sitting here idling about 15 minutes. Everything's lined up, spinning nice and clear, no weird sounds, no leaks, everything's going perfectly. It's in the mid 80s here in Southeast Michigan, which is pretty hot for us. Thursday, we're gonna hit in the high 90s. So that's gonna really be stress test day. But after it's been sitting here for about 15 minutes or so, let's go look at the temperature gauge. There she sits, hovering just above 180. I'm gonna take it for a ride, see what happens with the temperature, make sure nothing goes wrong. But I'm almost ready to call this completely solved. Clutch fan beats the electric fan, also beats a almost ready to die water pump. So you got a combination of factors I've been dealing with through all these videos. Thursday in the high 90s, which is really hot for us. That's gonna be the super stress test on this thing. We'll see how it does then. I'm gonna go for a little test drive now and enjoy the fruits of my labor. Okay, it's about 80 degrees, just cruising along. This thing is not moving off of 180, 182. Even if I punch it, hammer on it a little bit, it'll jump to like 185 and immediately drop right back down to 182 or so. This is awesome. Car's never ran this cool before. I'm awfully happy. All right, stress test day, 88 degrees, Southeast Michigan. This is a hot day for us. We don't really get into the 90s all that much, especially not the mid 90s. Tomorrow's gonna be about 92, but 88 is close enough. I'm going to a car show about 30 minutes away, so I'm gonna stress test it. See how the car is doing. Just left home, I can already hear the fan engage. It's doing its job, so I'm gonna see how this thing holds on a half-hour drive to a car show at 88 degrees ambient temperature. Stick around the car show for a while and then drive back home. Probably be a little cooler temperatures then, but this is it. This is the stress test. Been driving about a half an hour now. Everything's perfect. 88 degrees, sunny outside. This is about as hot as it gets around here. A little bit hotter, but I wouldn't even drive this car on a day if it was much hotter than this. Like I said, a half an hour. The needle has not moved off of 180. It is pinned at 180. I couldn't ask for more. Call me a believer. Clutch fan, heavy duty clutch, heavy duty fan, shroud over the electric fan all day, every day. I am an avowed believer. Call it a wrap. I'm calling it right now. Done deal. Post the video. If you like the content, as always, please like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Hope it helps some people out. Bye.